Hey guys, this is B Communications, and welcome back to another review, this time of another Arnold Schwarzenegger flick. Actually, my second favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger flick, and that is The Running Man. And this is actually a custom DVD I made, which actually has the Blu-ray rip of the film, as well as two rare interviews with Arnold Schwarzenegger that are not available on the Lionsgate DVD, which is a piece of shit with its documentaries about reality TV and bullshit and no information on the making of the movie. There's like 3 commentaries, which is alright, okay, but still, I heard they're not really much. So, other than that, you got pretty much nothing. At least my custom DVD, it has the most high definition transfer of the film. It has the Blu-ray rip of the movie on it. It has way better cover art. I mean, this cover art was bitchin' awesome. And, it's also got 2 interviews as Arnold Schwarzenegger vintage interviews. Yeah, they're pretty short, but they're better than nothing. And I think they total up to being about 10 minutes, a little bit longer than that. But that's better than nothing. And I got the trailer, the TV spots, and I got the Blu-ray transfer of the film. So I think my DVD is better than Lionsgate's. So suck it, Lionsgate. Anyway, I just had to get that off my chest, because whenever I talk about The Running Man, what pops in my head is definitely this really shitty DVD from Lionsgate. Special edition, like one of the worst special editions out there. The second disc, you might as well just use it to wipe your ass. That's about as useful as it is, in my opinion. But anyway, The Running Man is a 1987 film directed by Paul Michael Glaser. Now, Paul Michael Glaser is actually not the original choice for the director. In fact, Arnold Schwarzenegger was very, very, let's just say, skeptical of Paul Michael Glaser being the director of the movie. Prior to Paul Michael Glaser being hired as a director, executive producer Rob Cohen had hired 4 other directors in his attempts to make the movie. The first was George P. Cosmatos, who directed Cobra and Leviathan, 2 films I really enjoy, who had impressed Cohen with his work on Rambo First Blood Part 2. However, when Cosmatos announced that he wanted to relocate the entire film to a shopping mall, Cohen let him go, feeling that Cosmatos was taking the script in an unacceptable direction. Cohen next offered the project to German director Karl Schenkel, having been impressed with Abwärts, which I guess is a 1984 film I've never seen, but Schenkel turned him down as he didn't feel comfortable taking on such a large project. Like Cosmatos, however, next, Cohen hired Ferdinand Fairfax, based upon his work on Nate and Hayes. Ferdinand Fairfax is, for me, his most memorable film he's done is The Rescue. Like Cosmatos, however, Fairfax began to take the screenplay in a direction which Cohen disliked, so once again he let him go. Cohen then turned to Andrew Davis, having enjoyed Davis's movie Code of Silence. Davis actually got the project off the ground and into production, but only 8 days into the shoot, and he was already $8 million over budget and 4 days behind schedule. As such, Cohen let Davis go, and ultimately hired Glaser, whom he had worked with on the first season of Miami Vice. Arnold Schwarzenegger actually thought Paul Michael Glaser was a terrible choice to direct. What with Glaser coming from a TV background and having no film experience as a director whatsoever. He thought Glaser shot The Running Man like a TV show, losing all of the script's deeper themes. Schwarzenegger suspected because Glaser was a last-minute replacement, he didn't have time to research the future he was depicting, unlike James Cameron had with The Terminator. So also in television, they hire you in the very next week you shoot, so he didn't place all the blame at Glaser's feet. I think the film looks fine. I don't think it looks like a TV show. In fact, actually, it's supposed to kind of look like a TV show because it is pretty much about a TV show. So I think that actually worked in the film's favor. I don't think it glossed over the themes either. I think the film actually did make them pretty noticeable and made it so they were, you could figure out the themes. I mean, you could find them out. I think the Running Man is actually a film that's a lot deeper than people would give it credit for, to be honest. Dolph Lundgren, Christopher Reeve, and Patrick Swayze were considered to play Ben Richards, the star of the film. George P. Cosmatos wanted to relocate the entire film to a shopping mall. So this may be the influence for level in the game of Manhunt. which is based on a similar premise in which a former death row inmate must fight for his life against several different street gangs in a complex snuff film he's been forcibly enlisted in. One of these levels, called View of Innocence, takes place in an abandoned shopping mall. To be honest, I would love to see that actually happen. Like a movie. Not real life. I mean, what I mean is like a movie. I don't know what the fuck I was saying. I'd love to actually see that happen. Snuff film and this guy. No. What I meant was I'd love to see that actually be turned into a movie. I think that'd be really cool. Don Johnson was also in talks to star as Ben Richards, but he passed on the project to remain with Miami Vice. Alex Cox was also one of the choices to direct the film. He stated in interviews at the AV Club that he regrets not directing this film as he liked the story, but he was busy making Walker at the time. Now, the film is very loosely based on Stephen King's novel of the same name, The Running Man, which actually he used his pseudonym of Richard Bachman to publish the book. So at the time, barely nobody knew that it was Stephen King who actually ghost wrote the book, under the pseudonym of Richard Bachman. Of course, Stephen King, I don't think, is the biggest fan of this version. I know a lot of people have said that the book is better, but I've read the book, and in my opinion, this movie is 10 times better than the book. I think the book is depressing. I think the book is really, really bleak. It ends with Ben Richards crashing an airplane into a building. Yeah, you couldn't get away with that nowadays. It just really, honestly, was really a bit too bleak, and I'm glad that they decided to do something else with it. Decided to make it more of a lighthearted, fun action movie with Arnold as the star. Now, this movie actually got in a lawsuit after it came out from these producers of this French movie from 1983 called Le Prig du Danger. Now, I've never seen this movie, but I've read the synopsis, and it does sound very familiar with The Running Man. And I looked at some clips online, and yeah, The Running Man kind of, in a way, did rip off Le Prig du Danger. But because they actually did end up losing, the producers of The Running Man, I think they actually ended up losing the lawsuit, and the French producers won the lawsuit. And I could see why, but it still doesn't change the fact that I still love this movie. I don't care if it ripped off some French movie. I like it. I think it's an excellent movie. I think it's a very underrated, classic sci-fi action flick from the 80s. And I think it just deserves a little bit more than it's gotten as of late. I think it's, like I said earlier, I think it's a lot more clever than people give it credit for. Much like RoboCop, but RoboCop actually got the credit for being a clever satire. The Running Man, in my opinion, didn't get enough credit when it came out. And it also wasn't a big hit. It actually did not end up really doing that well in the box office. It had a budget of $27 million and only made about $38 million. So in comparison to the Predator that came out the same year, and even RoboCop, it was pretty much a disappointment. But I think it's really too bad. I think it should have done a lot better. But over the years, it's become a cult classic, and it definitely does deserve that. I've always loved The Running Man. The Running Man actually was the first Arnold Schwarzenegger film I saw that wasn't The Terminator, and I saw it on a VHS for the first time at my aunt's house, and I loved it. The movie stuck with me ever since. Specifically, the score by Harold Faltermeyer, the main theme. That's looping in my head right now. And continuously every day I can just. Any day of the week, I can just bring it back up. The da da dun da dun da da dun da dun da dun dun dun. I also think Harold Faltermeyer scores. His score in this film is one of his most underrated scores. I think it just fits the film like a glove. It's wonderful to listen to, and I think everybody talks about Top Gun. Everybody talks about Fletch. Everybody talks about. Beverly Hills Cop, but nobody talks about his score from The Running Man, which I think is really too bad because I think it's one of his best. Now, the film also, I think it's one of Arnold's best too. Now, the movie, of course, stars Arnold Schwarzenegger as Ben Richards. You have Richard Dawson as in his last film role before he ended up passing away. I think he passed away soon after. This is his last movie he did. He plays Damon Killian, and it's the most memorable film role. I think he's done a few films before, but this is the most memorable film role for him in his career. and pretty much what I remember Richard Dawson the most for. I was too young to I wasn't even born when he was hosting Family Feud. All I know is that he liked to smooze with the women. That's about it. And he was probably drunk every time he was on taping the show. But but I really do enjoy his performance in this. It's wonderful. It really is. Richard Dawson is excellent in this as the villain of the piece, Damon Killian, the corrupt, evil game show host. Yaphet Kotto does a good job too, and as a supporting role as William Laughlin, who's a Resistance member of the Resistance who allies himself with Ben Richards. Marvin J. McIntyre thought did a solid job as Harold Weiss, who's a Resistance member who also joins Richards. Marvin J. McIntyre, his character Weiss, he reminds me of myself. I don't make it, but I do at least I die for a good cause. That's all I gotta say. Um, and Mick Fleetwood, yes, Mick Fleetwood of Fleetwood Mac actually plays Mick, the leader of the Resistance. Um, Professor Toru Tanaka plays Sub-Zero. You have Gus Rethwisch as Buzzsaw, one of the Stalkers. Toru Tanaka also plays one of the Stalkers too, Sub-Zero. Jesse Ventura plays Captain Freedom. He has that hilarious stint and the Captain Freedom's workout. It was just hilarious. It was really I mean, if you haven't even seen the film, just look up the clip Captain Freedom's workout and you'll have a blast. It is literally just 80s charm at its finest. Jim Brown's in it too as Fireball, who's another stalker. Erland Van Lidth plays Dynamo, the opera singing stalker, light bulb head, and he shoots electricity and out of his fingertips. And this is his last film role too before he passed away. I remember him also. He was in Alone in the Dark with Jack Palance and Martin Landau, the film directed by an '80s film, early '80s film. I believe it's 1982, and it's a film that was directed by Jack Shoulder. And that's another film I really like, is Alone in the Dark. Yeah, it's a 1982 film. Now, there's a few other actors. Of course, Maria Conchita Alonso as Amber Mendez. I liked her character. I liked how her character arc was. At first, she believed in all this BS that the news is telling her that Ben Richards really is this Bakersfield, killer, a guy who slaughtered all these people, and so forth. Um, he was the guy who was responsible for the Bakersfield massacre, and she ends up over the course of the film realizing that's a bunch of BS, and she ends up not necessarily becoming a love interest, I guess in some ways, but once again, just like Commando, she doesn't really end up kissing Arnold at the end. I don't remember that anyway. She just becomes a member of the Resistance, and she just fights for a good cause, like the rest of the Resistance does. So it's not necessarily, she's not there for sex, so to speak. She's just there to pretty much. She ends up getting put in the Running Man show because she got caught trying to look for the actual Bakersfield tape, and then now she's fighting for survival. And Ben Richards is helping her out, and of course she's still skeptical. But over this course of the film, she realizes that he's actually innocent because she actually saw the video anyway. And I like her character too. She's definitely, you could say it's a stereotype. I don't care if it's a stereotype. It's very entertaining to watch her in this film. I really do enjoy Maria Conchita Alonso in this movie. And Dweezil Zappa plays Stevie, one of Mick's men, that he did a decent job too for the little bit that he had. And definitely, yeah, his name is Stevie, which is a reference to Fleetwood Mac. Mick is the leader of the Resistance, Mick Fleetwood. And I actually thought Mick Fleetwood actually did a pretty good job acting. I actually thought he really did a decent job. Kurt Fuller is also in it. Hardemeyer, the asshole from Ghostbusters 2. He plays Tony, the talent agent for the Running Man. Roger Bumpus plays Phil, the studio announcer for the Running Man. And Sven Ole Thorson plays Sven, Killian's head of security, who has that one memorable line. I think he doesn't really say anything throughout the entire movie until the end, when Richard Dawson is trying to get him to stop Arnold Schwarzenegger from killing him, and he's like, I've got to score some more steroids. So yeah. So yeah, the film definitely does have its tongue in its left cheek. Much, and it's also written by another film written by Stephen E. D'Souza, who wrote the screen, helped write the screenplay for Commando. So there is sort of a connection between Commando and The Running Man. Stephen E. D'Souza helped write Commando and helped write The Running Man. I love Commando. I really do enjoy it. And at the end of the day, I'd probably rate the Commando and The Running Man in terms of quality the same. I don't have any problems with either film, but The Running Man I find to have a little bit of a higher enjoyability factor. So I'll probably at the end of this video, I'll create a second rating, which will be for enjoyability factor, for entertainment factor, and I'll explain all of that when the time comes. But anyway, yeah, I think it's a great cast and really cool idea. A nice and update of the Most Dangerous Game, turning it into a satire of game shows and also a precursor to reality TV. In a lot of ways, The Running Man, like I said earlier, and I mentioned ad nauseum, is actually a pretty clever film when you look into it. It predated reality TV by many years. This idea of totalitarian future where the citizens of the society are being brainwashed with mindless television is really not that far-fetched, because I really honestly think we're kind of living in that society right now. Not necessarily totalitarian yet, not necessarily Orwellian or 1984, but still pretty close. Think about how many mindless TV shows we have nowadays, and mindless reality shows. Reality TV has become its own genre nowadays. And, game shows pretty much aren't really the biggest thing, except for Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune, the mainstays. So the only big things that you really have are Who Wants to Be a Millionaire or whatever. But a lot of the other reality shows are stuff like Wipeout or this other stuff, which I admit I enjoy Wipeout, but that's pretty much just a remake of an old show from Japan. Uh, MXTC, I think that's what it's called. I could be completely wrong. I thought that's what it was called, but I could be completely wrong. I remember watching it on Spike. It had like these. It was a Japanese game show that was pretty much Wipeout that was done, which was the Japanese announcers were dubbed by these comedians. But anyway, that's a whole other story. But pretty much, we're not that far away from the future of the Running Man. That's what's honestly pretty scary. The television already lies to us. There's already Killians in this world that are completely false, delivering false information over the airwaves, and not only radio, but not also the TV as well, over in through your TV screen, through your television screen. Look at Fox News. That's so full of shit. The news anyway. You can't even trust the news nowadays to really know if it's real or not. And you also, of course, you have the sports like football, and I'm starting to believe that I don't know if it's really set up or not. It could be. I mean, as a fan of the Dallas Cowboys, you struggle for as long as this team has. You starting to believe some conspiracy theories. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. But really, the Running Man was pretty much sort of an extension of the gladiators, and in the Roman era, and pretty much, football players, football teams, football games are our gladiators, and then to go even further, UFC. UFC is totally Rome. It's totally the gladiators of Rome inside a steel cage. So we're not that far away from this future of the Running Man. I really believe that if some network did decide that, hey, they did strike a deal with the law enforcement agencies and so forth, and they did strike a deal with the Justice Department to make it so they can have this game show where criminals who are on death row will be hunted for television. I honestly could see that actually happening in the future. And if it did happen, it would get big ratings. That's how scary this idea is. It's still not that far away. It's very close to being in our backyards or in our living rooms. I think that's what's really something that gets really overlooked about the movie. Something like the Hunger Games is not something that I think would ever. We're not going to separate ourselves in districts and whatever and do this and this. And no offense to the Hunger Games, but the Hunger Games ain't got shit on the Running Man. Seriously. I've seen the Hunger Games. Lame, tame, PG-13 wannabe action movie with which pretty much it's a young adult romance for teenage girls masquerading as an action film. That's how I look at it as. The Running Man, though, it's pure action, it's pure fun, it's pure adrenaline, it's pure Schwarzenegger, and it's pure 80s, and it's pure awesomeness. Um, I would take The Running Man any day of the week over The Hunger Games. But that's what I'm saying. In the future, The Running Man seems a little bit more realistic to me that could actually happen. A game show where a show on TV, a reality show where we actually start killing off death row inmates in gladiator battles. I could totally see it happening. Um, but of course, you have the whole moral thing and all this and whatever. But if things get desperate enough, and if these big wig rich execs get run out of ideas, that's an idea they might turn to. And so, yeah, the film, I thought, is not only just one of the most entertaining films that Schwarzenegger's ever been a part of, but also, let alone one of the most entertaining sci-fi action movies of the 80s, at least for me. Um, it also, like I said, has that deep subtext about it, about this pulling the wool over the society's eyes, the ability to brainwash an entire society with just brainless, mindless television, and and also to showcase how easy it is to manipulate people, how easy it is for a network exec or television to manipulate society, the society that watches it. And I think the film does a really good job with that. At least I think so, anyway. And I think that's definitely something that it deserves a lot more credit for. Its deeper subtext, which is actually, I think, is right there for the taking. And if you can, and you can really honestly do a lot of analyzing and critical analyzation and so forth on this film. Commando, I think, is one of those mindless, fun popcorn action flicks. The Running Man, to me, though, I don't think it's dumb. I don't think it's stupid. I don't think it's brash, and I don't think it's lowbrow entertainment. I think it's actually a lot more clever than people give it credit for. And you also have stuff like it's an on the joke too, like Commando was. Hey, we know we're making an over top action movie. Let's have as much fun with the concept as possible. And The Running Man does that. It does have a little bit of a limited budget, but I still think it really works really well. I think the movie has some of Arnold's best one-liners, and I think it's one of his best films. Yeah, I know. I like this more than The Terminator or T2. Sue me. I find this to be a lot more entertaining to watch, and I've always enjoyed The Running Man. It's always been one of my favorites. Now, anyway, let's get started, shall we? It's showtime. By 2017, the global economy has collapsed and American society has become a totalitarian police state, censoring all cultural activity. The government pacifies the populace by broadcasting a number of game shows in which convicted criminals fight for their lives, including the gladiator style The Running Man, hosted by the ruthless Damon Killian, played by Richard Dawson, where runners attempt to evade stalkers and a near certain death for a chance to be pardoned and set free. Of course, you find out over the course of the film that the idea of being set free is just an illusion. Now, the movie pretty much opens up with Ben Richards and Arnold Schwarzenegger sporting a scruffy beard. He's in prison. He's helping execute a breakout with some of the members of the resistance, played by Yaphet Kotto. Yaphet Kotto's character William Laughlin and Marvin J. McIntyre's character Harold Weiss. Now, I like the ideas that are present in here in the prison. I know some people are bitching about it's not realistic. Well, it's not. It's not a real life movie. It's a movie that's taking place sort of a sci-fi action flick, overblown, over the top. Not really overblown. That's not the right word. Over the top, fun sci-fi action movie. It's not meant to be 100% realistic, and I'm glad it's not. So so you have, I like the idea of the laser barrier, which is, you can't run across, this is the way that prisoners are trapped. You can't get out of this jail. If you get in a jailbreak, you still have this collar on around your neck that if you trip the laser wire, your head explodes. And this leads to a pretty nice head explosion scene where this one guy, he ends up jumping the gun a bit before the laser grid is actually shut down, and his head goes boom, and just bloody, gory, in a bloody gory mess, or gourmet mess, because for someone like me, it's delectable for me. I just really like old school gore. I do. I gotta admit, I love a good head explosion shot. Um, it's not because I'm some sick fuck. It's just because I really do appreciate that type of workmanship. I really miss that nowadays. It would just be CGI and have nowhere near as much of an impact. Now, in 2019, Ben Richards, who was a police pilot who was convicted of a massacre in the process of suppressing a food riot in Bakersfield, California, in which he actually refused to participate. So that's actually how the movie opens up. You have a little bit of prologue. He ends up getting sent to this prison where he ends up helping with a prison breakout, and because he ends up trying, I'm not going to kill those people. And of course, then he gets convicted and he gets tried, and he basically gets screwed. He gets framed for killing all these people, which he didn't do. He wasn't going to do it. And so there's that extra little bit of, he's an innocent man type deal, type bit of the drama, part of the, bit of the plot. Now, so he escapes from the camp, and then he ends up fleeing to a shanty town in the outskirts of Los Angeles. He declines an offer to join the resistance movement, and Richards instead seeks shelter at his brother's apartment. And before he actually decides to seek shelter, you have this, I actually thought it was a pretty cool scene. This is where you get introduced to Mick, played by Mick Fleetwood, where he's basically, he's finding a way to disable these, the neck collars. And I don't know if they have the line of dialogue, but I'm gonna see if they do, because I like the way that I like Arnold's performance in this. Sort of, he's basically saying, I don't know if they have it though, because it's not necessarily the most memorable lines of dialogue. No, it's just a really well done sequence where Arnold pretty much just, because the rest of the resistance is skeptical about him. But then Yaphet Kotto says he helped save our lives, so that's more than enough for me. So he gets the collar taken off, and then he ends up. Sorry, train of thought was just coming in the station there. He gets the collar taken off, and then he ends up trying to find shelter at his brother's apartment. He then finds that it is now occupied by Amber Mendez, Maria Conchita Alonso, who's a composer for ICS, the network that broadcasts The Running Man. Richards attempts to flee to Hawaii with Amber as a hostage, but she alerts airport security, and Richards is captured and taken to the ICS studios, because he's exactly what Damon Killian is looking for. I like the idea that Richard Dawson is playing this nice, fun guy. When he drives up to the ICS headquarters, and everybody's cheering his name, and he gets into the studio, and then he trips over some guy's mop, and then he's like, I'm sorry, Mr. Killian. And he's like, no, it's okay, it's all right, you're doing a good job. And then he gets into the elevator, and he's like, if that guy's still working tomorrow, consider yourself out of a job, talking to his secretary. So you're like, he's actually he's just putting on a show for the public. In real life, he's a scumbag. So anyway, so what happens is Arnold's character gets captured, and before that, I thought actually were pretty fun lines of dialogue, fun little moments where Arnold finds out that Maria Conchita Alonso's character has all these restricted cassette tapes. They're on the restricted list. Like, oh, found this box. It was like, these are all on the restricted list. Oh, and money. I need this. And he pretty much takes her he pretty much takes her travel badge and arranges a flight to Hawaii. I'd even like the fun lines, a little bit of banter that he has with her, where um, she's like, "Oh, I'm getting air sick. I'm going to throw up. I'm going to throw up all over you. I'm getting sick right now. I'm going to throw up all over you." And then I like how Ben's like, "It wouldn't matter. It wouldn't ruin this shirt. It wouldn't show up on this shirt." That's not the exact line of dialogue, but I love that. I love that scene. That little bit of banter there. He's wearing this Hawaiian shirt. It wouldn't matter. It wouldn't ruin this shirt. Even fun lines. Even some fun stuff. There's a lot of fun moments in this movie. Um, I'm just looking to see if there are any more of them that I. Yeah, there's definitely more. I'll get to them soon enough. But anyway, now the rest of now what happens is Ben got taken to the ICS studios. He ends up being captured. Killian ends up coercing him to compete in the Running Man with a threat that if he declines, his two weaker escapee friends Laughlin and Weiss will be put on the show instead. Richards complies, but as the show begins, Killian reveals that Laughlin and Weiss have been enrolled as runners anyway. And I really like the jumpsuits they're wearing, which actually I guess they're sponsored by Adidas, which you can see Adidas on the heel, I believe. And the Running Man game show seen in the film was based upon the early 80s Japanese game show called the Trans-American Ultra Quiz, in which contestants were tortured in various ways. The prize went to whichever contestant could stand the pain and the humiliation the longest. Wow, Japan. Some crazy shit. Um, I'm just trying to see the ICS Television Network headquarters, lower 8th floor, seen at about 13 minute 40 seconds in the film, 40-second mark of the film, is a pyramid-like Filmland corporate center in Los Angeles, the home of Metro-Goldwyn Mayer in 1987. A matte painting added an imposing 21-story tower above the real structure. In 1992, Sony purchased MGM's old studio lot and moved into the Filmland building. The building was renamed Sony Pictures Plaza. In 1987, Sony also purchased TriStar Pictures, the distributor of The Running Man. And I'm just a little bit of trivia. The big dance number at the start of the Running Man show was choreographed by Paulo Abdul. For anyone who might be a Paulo Abdul fan. But anyway, yeah. So now I'm trying. So the Running Man show starts, and I like the design. I like the production design of the film. I actually want to look up the production designer to actually give that particular person the much deserved credit. Um, Costume design by Robert Blackman. I like the costume design of this film. Excuse me, just making sure I find the actual production designer. Jack T. Collis. I think Jack T. Collis did a pretty good job with production design in the film. For what he had to work with, because probably a majority of the budget probably went to the cast, and the rest of it was probably for a little bit of effects and so forth. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure I found who did the production design and gave them their much deserved due. Now, anyway, going back to the film, I really love the way that they the way they enter into enter into the game, so to speak. These chairs that have like these that are rocket powered and they go through these tunnels really fast. I like the way that was shot. I like the way it really does it gets my blood pumping just watching those scenes. And the back and forth between Richard Dawson and Ben is great. Killian, I'll be back. Only in a rerun. Go! So he ends up. So Arnold gets sent out first, of course, and then his friends end up getting sent out. And the first stalker that gets sent after them is Sub-Zero, Professor Toru Tanaka, and he's like, it's like a sadistic hockey rink, pretty much. And he's dressed up like a goalie and just slamming into people. Arnold and Yaphet Kotto, and he takes Weiss, and he shoots him like a puck into this goal, which then locks him inside it. And Arnold gets the better of him with, like, he takes this barbed wire off the side of the rink and uses it to wrap it around Sub-Zero's neck and, strangle him and also slit his throat. And of course, afterwards, you have one of the really awesome one-liner where Arnold is standing over Sub-Zero's dead body and blood's pouring out of his neck all over the ice, and he's like, "Killian, here's a Sub-Zero. Now, Plane Zero." I always crack up at that line. It is just so absurd. And you would think, when you think about it, you think it's just kind of corny, but it's so awesome. And Arnold just nails the line delivery. "Killian, here's your Sub-Zero. Now, Plane Zero." So, of course, after that, everyone's shocked. They're like, "Oh my God, he's the stalker is dead." And I also like that aspect of the film too, that this society in this future has become so duped by the media and consumerism and so forth that they're rooting for psychopathic murderers. They're idolizing psychopathic killers who kill other people. I like that kind of stuff. And I believe there's also, yeah, of course, the line. He even has another line of dialogue another one-liner before he even says the Plane Zero line. He's after strangling with the barbed wire. He's like, "What a pain in the neck." So, yeah, a lot of fun. And so after that, after he dies, after Sub-Zero becomes Plane Zero, I'm just looking at the quotes to see if I forgot anything. That's why. Oh yeah, even after Damon Killian's word afterwards, he's like, "Ladies and gentlemen, this is just horrible. Words can't express what we're all feeling at this very moment. A great champion has fallen." We'll be back right after these important messages. I love that. It's just like, somebody died, but who cares? The advertising is more important. And of course, even after all of that, um, and of course, there's another fun line. This is before I think even Arnold got put in the game. Damon Killian's talking. It's like, "Hi, cutie pie. One of us is in deep trouble. You know who I am? I've seen you before. You're the asshole on TV." That's funny. I was going to say the same thing about you. And then you have the whole sort of scene where trying to remember, like, he makes a reference to Gilligan's Island, because that's afterwards, after Sub-Zero died. It's like, yes, I know a stalker died. It had to happen sooner or later. Well, it is a contact sport, okay? You want ratings? You want people in front of the television instead of picket lines? Well, you're not going to get that with reruns of Gilligan's Island. Gilligan's Island. Yeah, the one with the boat. So anyway, of course, after Sub-Zero dies, now Killian then goes into the audience and gets another person to recommend the next stalker. And this one guy's having a hard time figuring out which one. "Oh, I like Dynamo, but Buzzsaw was last year's champion." And you have so Richard Dawson just basically makes the decision for him and brings out Buzzsaw and Dynamo. And so I also like this sort of, you have a little bit of the satire in this too, where, every contestant, who gets, called up to pick a stalker ends up getting all of these gifts, including a copy of the Running Man home game, which is like a board game, which a lot of people would say it's dated. Well, the movie was made in 1987, okay? They could not see in the future. They didn't have a crystal ball. And they pretty much, since they were limited with what they had for the budget, they pretty much used what they had. They used board games and cassette tapes. It's not a big deal. It doesn't mean that it's dated. It just means that they just did what they did the best they could with what they had. That's it. They were limited. Maybe it's limited, but not dated. Plus, I hate that word. That's another word I don't like, when it applies to a film. Because you're going to say the same thing about Casablanca or Gone with the Wind? Is it dated? No, people call those classics. I would call this a classic. I'm sorry. Casablanca and Gone with the Wind aren't the only ones that deserve to be called classics. The Running Man also deserves to be called a classic. It's not dated because it came out in the 80s. I'm sick of that shit. I really am sick of that being used as a criticism. It's dated. It doesn't hold up well when you compare it to modern day society. Bullshit. There's a lot of things about this movie that still apply. Mindless reality TV shows, mindless game shows. Hell, we got tons of those, if not more nowadays. What, Keeping Up with the Kardashians? I wouldn't be surprised to have seen that on ICS in the future of the Running Man. It fits right at home with the mindless entertainment, and it's definitely right at home on that schedule with game shows like Climbing for Dollars and The Hate Boat. Might as well just have Keeping Up with the Kardashians on there as well. Be right at home. But anyway, so pretty much what happens is, Laughlin and Weiss, both members of the resistance movement, they seek to exploit their situation by searching for the network's uplink facilities. And of course, now Dynamo and Buzzsaw are chasing after them. But you have these fun lines of dialogue, which I really love, like where Weiss just keeps talking about, we need to find the uplink underground. We need to find the uplink underground. And then Arnold's just visibly annoyed, and I love this. He's like, uplink underground? Uplink underground? If you say that one more time, I'll uplink your ass, and you'll be underground! I just love that. Uplink underground? Say that one more time, I'll uplink your ass, and you'll be underground! This is a lot of fun. And so eventually they find the uplink. I find that really, really a lot of fun. When Arnold's annoyed and angry, it's just entertainment heaven for me. So yeah. Oh, I forgot even one more fun moment too, where you have the whole scene before Arnold even goes on the show. He has to sign this contract, and this guy, this sort of wormy agent guy, and he just stabs a pen in his back. There's a lot of fun moments like that in this movie. So anyway, they find the uplink facilities, which they realize are in the game zone. Amber, Maria Conchita Alonso, begins to question the media's veracity after watching a falsified news report on Richards' capture at the Butcher of Bakersfield. That's what they call Arnold Schwarzenegger, his character Ben Richards. I had mentioned that because I forgot it earlier. At the television studio, she discovers the truth about the massacre, but then she is captured and sent into the game zone. The runners split up, each pair pursued by a different stalker. Laughlin ends up being wounded by the stalker Buzzsaw. He gets cut up with a chainsaw, and then you have the whole sort of scene, I believe, where he gets cut with a saw, and then Arnold goes after, it's revenge. He goes after, actually, I think it's Weiss and Amber, the ones that look for the uplink, and Weiss is trying to get the code to the uplink satellite, the password, and he's asking Amber to remember it. He ends up getting electrocuted by Dynamo, and he dies, but Amber remembers the code, so she ends up getting chased by Dynamo, and, this fat guy in this ridiculous getup with this light bright outfit and this plastic mohawk and basically a moon buggy, It's absurd, but it's so great. It's so awesome. Anyway, I mean, only the writing man can make this shit. But anyway, the movie doesn't take itself that seriously anyway, so that's why it ends. All of this ridiculousness ends up working, at least for me anyway. It just ends up making the movie immensely entertaining, and the more over the top, the better. At least for me anyway. So anyway, of course, Buzzsaw. Then Arnold goes after Buzzsaw, and of course, Buzzsaw thinks he has the upper hand, and Arnold then turns the saw around. And of course, before that, Buzzsaw sounded like, "I love this saw. It's a part of me, and I want to make it a part of you." And then, of course, Arnold then flips the saw around and, just basically ends up sawing the Buzzsaw right in the balls, cuts him right up, right from his crotch up to, pretty much up to his stomach. And, of course, you don't see it. That's one thing I could have used a little bit of. You actually see the saw, actually cut him in half. But you see a little bit of it. The way it's lit, you kind of don't see much. But I still like the way it's lit. I like the way the film is lit. It adds a unique look to the film. And of course, Arnold, before he saws him, he's like, "That's okay. Keep it. It's okay. You can keep it." Which I believe that's a line of dialogue. And I like the little bit of humor that it leaves. That the film has too. There's a lot of great bits of humor in this, but you have the little bit of humor after he cuts Buzzsaw. Buzzsaw, his last dying scream is really high pitched because he hit him right in the balls. So he's like, "Ah!" and he dies. And then Amber then ends up talking and asks Killian what happened to Buzz. Not Killian. She asked Richards what happened to Buzzsaw. It's like, "What happened to Buzzsaw?" And just great deadpan Schwarzenegger's like, "He had the split." Just awesome. So anyway, of course, then what happens is now Dynamo is chasing after Arnold and Maria Conchita Alonso, and this guy is a complete joke. And I love Arnold, what Arnold says, and I love when Arnold's insulting this guy. He's like trying to get his attention. He's like, "Hey, hey, lighthead, hey, Christmas tree, hey, light bulb, hey, Christmas tree, over here." I love that. And for years, I thought Arnold said light bright, but he doesn't say light bright. But it's so perfect because Dynamo's outfit literally does look like it's made out of light bright. The toy, the light bright, the toy. From the 80s. Looks like light bright pegs are put on put on his armor, and so it was perfect. I loved Arnold just to yell, no, "Hey, lighthead, hey, Christmas tree, hey, light bright, over here, light bright." So anyway, Arnold ends up running away from him, playing the running man, and he hits an embankment and flips over. Arnold, instead, he has an opportunity to kill Dynamo, but he doesn't. He just shoves a pipe. He has a pipe in his hand. He has an opportunity to kill Dynamo, but he doesn't. He just slams it down right beside his head. So Dynamo's, down but not out now. And he goes in with Amber, and they go try to find the secret headquarters, Mick's secret headquarters, which is supposedly there on the game course. And of course, along the way, he ends up meeting up with Yaphet Kotto's character, and Yaphet Kotto pretty much, he says like, he's like, "Come on, let's go." He's like, "I'm going somewhere, but not with you. Buzzsaw took care of my traveling arrangements." And then I like this. His last words are William Laughlin, Yaphet Kotto's last words are, "Don't let us down. I don't want to be the only asshole in heaven, Ben." And so afterwards, after Laughlin dies, then they end up trying to find the secret headquarters. And there's even more fun banter between Ben Richards and and Amber, which I like this, where he's like, me and my big mouth, we should have just taken the trip to Hawaii. And Ben is like, I had the shirt for it, but you fucked it up. That's one of the most underrated lines of dialogue that barely nobody, a lot of people, when they talk about the Running Man, they don't bring up that line. And I always love that line, especially Arnold's delivery of that. I had the shirt for it, but you fucked it up. You fucked it up. I had the shirt for it, but you fucked it up. So then of course they end up finding the secret headquarters, and of course before that I love this line where of course there's just I love so many lines in this movie, um, like for example, and of course Amber ends up also finding well, this is a little bit later actually when she finds out what actually happened to last season's winners. Um, just trying to find, and I know. Oh yeah, that's this is the line that Ben says, but when Dynamo flips over and before he slams the pipe next to his head, he's like, "No, I won't kill a helpless human being, not even sadistic scum like you." There's just one more. It's like a strangling line, and I'm trying to find it. I know it's in here somewhere. Of course, you had the famous line. A lot of people remember, which is great. Um, come on, come on, come on, come on. I know you were like, stop stalling. Come on. There it is. Amber's all like, they think I'm your girlfriend. I can straighten that out. See that camera up there? I'll strangle you in front of the whole audience. That was just so unexpected. They think I'm your girlfriend. I can straighten that out. I can strangle you right in front of the whole audience. And of course, after that, then you have the most memorable, like awesome. Only Arnold could pull this scene off. Where I'm gonna try to do it my best justice. Where he grabs the camera and Killian's pretty much just saying to Arnold, hey, you can become a stalker. You got a 3-year contract for you. You have a condo and everything, and why don't you just join me? It'd be good. And Arnold's reaction is classic. I live to see you eat that contract, but I hope you leave enough room for my fist, because I'm going to ram it into your stomach and break your goddamn spine! Ah! This is awesome. I love that. Love that scene. Leave to see you eat that contract, but I hope you leave enough room for my fist, because I'm going to ram it into your stomach and break your goddamn spine! Ah! He rips the camera off the pedestal or whatever it's on and just smashes it on the ground. This is just classic Schwarzenegger and a classic scene in a classic movie. So afterwards, now people are starting to doubt the stalkers. Are now you actually have people betting on Ben Richards, and even the woman in the audience, elderly woman who's in the audience, is asked to choose the next stalker, and Damon's asking her, and he's like, "There are still two stalkers out there, Dynamo and Fireball. Who do you think will make the next kill?" And she's like, "Oh my, that's a tough one. Come on, Agnes, you can do it. Who do you think?" "All right, I think the next kill will be made by Ben Richards." "No, no, 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 Agnes. Richards is a runner. You have to pick a stalker. I can pick anyone I choose, and I choose Ben Richards. That boy is one mean motherfucker." And so now things are starting to get a little bit confused now. They're wondering, like, what's going on? All right. And so just making sure I didn't forget any more lines. So anyway, pretty much now what happens is Schwarzenegger's character, Richards and Ben and Amber, Conchita Alonso, they end up finally finding Mick's secret headquarters. Amber gives Mick the code so they can broadcast the signal, so they can jam the satellite signal and put in their own signal. And she's got the Bakersfield footage, the real Bakersfield footage, and so Mick and his and Stevie, they end up creating this video that they're going to show to the people, who are watching the Running Man all over the U.S., I think, and maybe the world. I don't know if it's a worldwide thing. And of course, so they end up, trying to do that sort of thing. And I think actually that might have happened afterwards, after Fireball went out. Jim Brown went out and went after Amber, and Schwarzenegger went after Amber and Ben, and Amber ends up finding that the last season's winners, Price and Haddad. It was like Winston, Price, and Haddad are dead. They're just corpses. And Fireball shows up while Amber's in the room with the dead corpses, and she's like, "These are last season's winners." And Jim Brown did a good line delivery here. He's like, "No, last season's losers." And so then he ends up trying to, Fireball ends up trying to burn Amber at that moment, but Ben shows up right in time, just in time, and pulls his gas line out, and he lights a flare, and of course, now Fireball's freaking out. He's like, "Oh, my gas line, my gas line!" And Arnold's like, "How about a light?" Throws, boom, and blows Fireball up. I love that. There's just so many awesome moments in this. One-liners, cool one-liners. So after Fireball is dead, the last stalker, now Killian tries to get Captain Freedom, Jesse Ventura, out of retirement. They have him dress up in this ridiculous getup, this shitty-looking getup with squeaks every time he moves, and even he's like, "This is bullshit. I'm not wearing this. This shit doesn't even work." And of course, they end up, figuring out, okay, we got to be clever with it. So they take some old footage of a fight between Captain Freedom and a stunt double, and they digitally take Schwarzenegger and Maria Conchita Alonso's characters' faces and put them on the stunt doubles. So then they pretty much just create pretty much a fake fight to satisfy everybody. Reality is not real. And so while they're trying to put that together and they relay that to the public, actually when they play that at the during the game show, the final battle between Captain Freedom and Ben Richards and Amber, what actually happens is the real, Amber and Ben actually watch it on the TV while they're in Mick's secret headquarters, while they're trying to jam the signal. And of course, that's not true. We're still alive. And Amber has this moment, well, this is good. We're dead. We can go anywhere. And I was like, no, it's not. Arnold, just slide there. No, it's not. It's not good. Because I'm the running man. No. No, it's not. It's not good. Arnold explains it pretty well, a lot better than I will, and I don't remember the exact line. So anyway, they end up jamming the signal. Ben and Amber team up with the rest of Mick's Resistance to shut down ICS and shut down the game show and pretty much shut down this corrupt government and take it back for the people. And they show this video on the show of the real Bakersfield footage, show that Arnold is innocent. They show the footage of Killian and show that he's lying to you. And then it becomes a little bit of a shootout. The Resistance fighters versus Killian's men. Nice little bit of a shootout at the end. And then Arnold faces off with Killian. And, awesome stuff. Like, "You bastard! Drop dead! I don't do requests." And then, of course, then you have the whole sort of Killian's talking to Schwarzenegger. He's like, "This is television. That's all it is. It has nothing to do with people. It's to do with ratings. For 50 years, we told them what to eat, what to drink, what to wear. For Christ's sake, Ben, don't you understand? Americans love television. They wean their kids on it. Listen, they love game shows. They love wrestling. They love sports and violence. So what do? We give them what they want. We're number one, Ben. That's all that counts. Believe me, I've been in the business for 30 years. Well, I may not have been in the show business for as long as you have, but I'm a quick learner. And right now, I'm going to give the audience what I think they want. And then he puts him in the rocket chair. And then that's the whole thing where he's like, "You bastard, drop dead. I don't do requests." And of course, then that's a whole sort of thing where he tries to get Sven to do something, and he pretty much doesn't do anything. He pretty much just sits there and says, "I got to score some steroids." It's so absurd, but so awesome. Just like the entire movie, it's absurd but awesome. And there's a fun line of dialogue too. While Arnold's getting his revenge on Killian, Amber's she's in a little bit of trouble with Dynamo, who's trying to go after her. He's being an asshole. He's giving her shit, calling her a bitch, and she ends up getting the best of him. In a fun scene where pretty much I think she finds a way to turn on the water or something, and of course he hit on the sprinkler or something, and he ends up getting electrocuted. But I like this. It's like, "That was pretty funny out there in the zone. What's the matter now, bitch? Why aren't you laughing? Because there's nothing funny about a dickless moron with a battery up his ass." So anyway, Arnold ends up, after she ends up killing Dynamo, Arnold ends up killing Damon, ends up sending his ass in a rocket chair through the tunnel and through his own sign. Basically blows him up through his own sign. "We're number one." He goes right through the sign and he explodes. And a glorious fireball. And then the awesome, excellent song by John Parr, "Running Away with You." Start the opening. The opening. What is it like? I'm trying to think of the right word. The opening dulcet tunes. The opening tune of the song starts to play off. The opening riff starts playing, and it just syncs up perfectly with Arnold giving this last little good long look to Amber's character. Amber, Maria Conchita Alonso's character, and I even like the line of dialogue Arnold has after he killed Killian. He's like, "Well, that hit the spot," and and then that's actually a perfect way to describe the movie. It hits the spot. It's like a nice, refreshing, tall glass of lemonade on a hot summer day. It leaves me with the same sort of feeling, The Running Man. So anyway, he gives this last long, loving glance at Maria Conchita Alonso's character. Arnold looks at Ben looks at Amber with loving eyes, and then John Parr's excellent song starts playing, and then I have always listened to watch the movie all the way to the end credits just to listen to this awesome song. "Running Away with You," which is just an amazing song. And actually, what I'm going to try to do, some acapella karaoke here. Why not? I love this song, and a little bit of acapella singing the song, and try to find "Restless Heart." Is "Running Away with You" is also the name of the song as well. This is no game. Standing in the dark, I swear I heard you calling my name. And now that things have changed, no pain, no gain. Something in your eyes just told me that this nightmare would end. And I have found a friend, shouting from the highest steeple, let it out to all the people. I think I got it wrong. It's like, shouting from the highest steeple, let it out to all the people, playing on the loudest speaker. I got that totally wrong. Fuck. But pretty much, I'll just do this part. I'll just do the main chorus. No more lonely nights with the restless heart. Roll the dice, make a brand new start. Read the words and you got shattered. You and me were old and battered. Just one way I'm gonna lose this restless heart, running away with you. So, there you go. I'll just leave it at that because I can't get the rest of the song right. And I've heard the song multiple times, but I'd have to listen to it again to get it exactly right. Um, Especially the shouted from the highest steeple bit of the song. But anyway, yeah, that's The Running Man. It hits the spot. It really does. It hits the spot. I know it's a long review. This is going to be as long as it was going to be because this is one of my favorite films, one of my favorite Schwarzenegger movies. And it's also a movie I think is really underrated. And you know, I tend to go a little bit overboard with that. But I think it deserves this type of treatment. Um, and so, yeah, I really don't know what else to say about The Running Man except rate out 5 stars. It gets something 5 out of 5. I think I don't find anything wrong with this movie. I really do love watching every second of this film. Um, I think the score is excellent. Harold Faltermeyer's score, underrated, overlooked score by Harold Faltermeyer. Excellent song John Parr at the end credits. I like the plot. I like the performances. I like the sense of humor it has, the one-liners. Everything just works, in my opinion, in the Running Man's favor. So 5 out of 5 stars, and like I said earlier, bring up the entertainment factor rating. This actually gets a 5 for me on the entertainment scale. Commando, I would have given it a 4, like a 4 on the entertainment scale, but this gets a 5 for me. Because Commando, yeah, I like it. I enjoy it. I think it's a fun movie. But there's something about The Running Man. I don't know. It just hits. It hits the spot. It really does. Commando hits the spot too, but it's just not nearly as refreshing and as fun to watch for me on the entertainment factor. I don't know what it is, but The Running Man I just like a little bit more. I think it's a little bit more entertaining for me. Anyway, I really don't know what to say except thanks for watching this long and depth review of The Running Man, and I will see you guys later. See ya.